Alright, so you did a lesson on adding and subtracting integers with
Yes.
7th grade.
Correct.
Alright, so explain to me what you did exactly.
I started off by showing examples on the number line of movement that was always going to be a positive value on the number line. Whether you go in negative direction, positive direction, distance was always an absolute value. And I explained that concept on the number line and made sure they understood decreasing values and increasing values. And then we transitioned into examples where we were doing the additive inverse to speed the process up. And they seemed like they really understood that really well starting off. And so we worked examples together. I give them individual examples to do. And then we did some practice out of the book on.
Okay, so what do you think is working in your class?
I think they understood the number line process because they'd seen that so much at the elementary level, but I think they really liked the idea of the additive inverse better because it was much quicker for them instead of having to draw the number line. And I think it worked well when they had a few problems of their own to practice. They made some mistakes early, but then they were able to correct those. And by the time we did a quiz to check those, they were doing much better. Most were understanding the concept. There were a few that were still struggling a little bit, but most caught on to that fairly quickly.
Okay, and you said you did a quiz to assess that, so
Right.
you have their quiz scores to look at?
Yes.
Alright, so how do you know that what you're doing is working? And I feel like you just answered that.
Right. I mean, anytime I introduce a new concept, I always do it with examples. I'll do board work and explanations, and then we'll work problems together. I have them to do some individually, but before I did the quiz, we did one full day of them doing problems out of the textbook, and then we go back over and I checked all of those with them. They got to ask questions. I would show them the ones they missed about where they might have not have changed the sign. And so, and then the third day is when we actually had the quiz.
Okay. Are you using any strategies in particular to ensure that all students are mastering the skill?
On this, I didn't do anything different because the concept was pretty straightforward and most have it. Now, I did tell them after I went back over the quiz and corrected what they missed on the quiz, I always give them a chance to do a makeup quiz. So I do give an extra opportunity, but I really didn't change the strategy because most, when they saw the mistakes, they were able to see it pretty readily and were ready to correct and move on.
Right.
They were really frustrated when they would see what they would do to miss it. Most of the time, as I called out the answers and going back over where I had checked it, and they were looking at their paper, they could usually see the mistake before I even pointed it out, working it on the board. So they were a little bit disappointed to see that they made so many simple mistakes, but they were ready to redo it again. Most were anxious if they didn't score A or a B, they were ready to do it again.
Okay. Have you ever done this with algebra tiles? I know you said you used a number line and you showed on the number line. Have you ever,
I have done
integer
the
chips or
tiles
whatever?
before, but it's been several years because I haven't taught 7th grade in a long time. So 10 years ago, first round of 7th grade, I did it some then, but I haven't done any on this group.
Just curious. I have never taught 7th grade math before, but I did sit in a workshop this summer and they set the problem up and we had yellow chips for positive numbers and red chips for negative numbers, and then we worked through the additive inverse that way, and I thought that was an interesting way to do that. I haven't taught 7th grade math, so I've never
The
done
biggest
that before.
thing on the 7th grade, I know they see that in the elementary, but it's a time crunch, and on some of these basic skills, you just can't take that much extra time. With what we have to cover, you've got to pick your spots to slow down and do more.
Right, so where do you focus more of your time?
You're talking about on this
In-
particular?
Right, no,
or-
in seventh grade, like.
Oh,
yeah.
seventh grade, when we get to the equations and setting that up for the pre-algebra, we'll spend a lot more time just on solving the equations. I'm hoping with the basic skills that we move faster in those on positive numbers, negative numbers, the multiplication, adding, subtracting fractions. I'm hoping they pretty much have all those skills down, and then I can really focus on a lot of the pre-algebra and solving equations.
Okay, do you ever do like a quick check, like maybe like a quizzes or like an exit ticket, like just like a 3 or 4 questions at the end, just to see like how everybody is at the end of the lesson?
I do, but not every day. I usually pick the spots just because it's so much to try to check back over with 6
Yes.
classes. So I might do that one day a week.
Okay,
And it depends on the skills and the difficulty, but if I feel they're getting something, I'm not as worried about that. But as we go further in, if they're having problems, I'm much more likely to do a quick check at the end.
okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome.